Well, we cross live now to Dubai, where a session on women's role in building a climate-resilient world is underway. Let's listen in as Hillary Clinton currently holds the mic.
Harness it to information and advocacy and go forth and do everything you can to make a difference.
Now I'd like to welcome to the stage for closing remarks and a bit of gender diversity, a man who needs no introduction, former Secretary of State. Now we're going to have two former Secretaries of State and current Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, John Kerry.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be with you, and thank you for letting one man be on the panel. I'm appreciative. Frankly, I haven't had a chance to sit through all the panels, and I rarely get that chance, but I'm really glad I could today. I think you will agree with me that this was brilliant, encouraging, inspirational, and so important in terms of a conversation to motivate so many other people who aren't here to be part of this battle. So I thank you, every single one of you who spoke so emphatically today to remind us of a powerful truth. You can't address the climate crisis without empowering the women of the world, and you can't empower women if the world doesn't step up and address the crisis of climate. So Director Jennifer Klein, Ambassador Gupta from the Biden-Harris administration, White House, and the Blinken State Department, you have really both put gender issues where they need to be, which is front and center in every single conversation. Let's be clear, and I think for Hillary and for me and those of us who have been working at this, we've known this for some period of time. But women's issues are really inextricably tied to every issue of consequence, none more so than the climate crisis. And on these issues, appropriately, women are. We listen. The line from Hillary, Sue Biniaz, who is literally a treasure and institution with respect to getting anything done at a COP. She's a premier negotiator, our lead negotiator, and she has been to every single COP and really has set the standard for how we get this done. And Christina Chan, who you heard from a little while ago at the very beginning, and she's an adaptation expert. She's our lead for the negotiation to create this new fund for climate impact response. And she won a great victory the other day when the first time in history we passed a controversial issue, difficult issue, right up front on day one of this COP. That's never happened before. And Christine, we really are appreciative, Christina, for your leadership. We also have many other women leaders in my office that I'm privileged to have, I will tell you, on climate finance, climate and security, clean energy, and climate and the ocean. Every single one of them, women, and my terrific chief of staff who's sitting over here, Kitty DiMartino. So listening to these panels, I'm not exaggerating when I say to you, boy, the more we can get you engaged, the more we can get women to the table, the more women whose voices are heard on why these crises are so real in terms of day-to-day life for people all around the world. The more that happens, the more we will be good hands and the more we have a chance of winning this battle. I'm also lucky enough to have two daughters, Alexandra, who's a terrific filmmaker and who's working on the climate issue right now, and my daughter Vanessa, who's a physician who happens to now be the WHO, the World Health Organization envoy for health and the environment. And she has started a program in Africa in 5 countries where she, a practicing physician, is now the CEO of an effort that is training and has trained over 40,000 doctors, nurse practitioners, midwives, nurses, and leaves behind a growing infrastructure to be able to sustain the care that is delivered by many people who are concerned about what's happening there. So they've reminded me on more than one occasion, first of all, don't engage in any mansplaining, and secondly, the irony that the modern environmental movement was actually inspired by a trailblazing woman named Rachel Carson, and that very movement has for too many years been seen as male, pale, and Yale. Not so today, I might say. Hillary and I are both veterans of Yale, so maybe we'd make it out. But that's why I'm really glad to be here in Dubai, and particularly with Hillary. Hillary, I'm not exaggerating one iota, and you, I think, felt the warmth of your welcome here, but you really are an inspiration to generations of people around the world, countless of millions, and we thank you for everything you've done. I followed Hillary as Secretary of State, and when I set out as Secretary to stitch the environment, the whole question of the climate crisis, into every fabric of the department, I actually knew right away what a winning playbook looked like. I wanted to do for the climate crisis what Hillary had already done for women and girls, issues at the department. And Hillary, I really couldn't have a better partner now on this initiative, where you and I both need to work together to weave both of these issues together. And that will make us much stronger in our ability to communicate on a global basis. When I think of the women who are on the stage today, my friends, it really couldn't be more clear how much our capacity to be able to win this fight will depend on our ability to be able to bring to people around the world an understanding of the connections that were discussed here today. Women and girls, particularly the most vulnerable, bear a disproportionate burden of the climate crisis. And every single gender disparity is compounded by the crisis. Women are almost invariably, in almost most countries in the world, the managers of the household, the managers of the family, and they are therefore the managers of health, managers of feeding, managers of food production, and ultimately, if it doesn't work out, they're always protecting their children and they're at the forefront even of migration as a result of the forced circumstances of their lives. And in all of this, particularly in certain parts of the world, it's women who don't only just hold together the household, but who have to collect the food, collect the firewood, be able to heat and cook and provide for the capacity of the family to be able to stay together, if it is together, and often isn't. And the underlying gender disparities in everything, access to education, health, information, mobility, resources, training, healthcare, all of it, including that women are often in a position where they are the least likely to survive disaster. And so the State Department, for this reason, recently released the first ever strategy to respond to the effects of climate change on women. And it is precisely why we are now trying to match analysis with advocacy with action, with a full suite of new programs and outreach alongside the WISE initiative. Much of this is going to come through the president's emergency initiative on adaptation. And much of it is going to come because of the commitment of folks like Hillary and Sue and the others who've been here today who are going to keep pressing this issue. So, my friends, earlier I mentioned the godmother of the modern climate cause, Rachel Carson, a diminutive woman who in the 1950s saw what was happening with the spraying of DDT, spraying children, spraying families, spraying streets, communities where people were living and walking around. And she alone discerned that this was a people killer. It was a poison. And she took that fight on. And in doing so, she transformed the entire face of America, because in winning that battle, she set us up for the modern movement that won the battle of 1970 with the first Earth Day and passed the Clean Air Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, the Coastal Zone Management Act, and the Endangered Species Act, and actually created the Environmental Protection Agency. All of that came from this one woman who took on the biggest companies in the world and who won the battle. So she wrote in every outthrust headland. By the way, she's a beautiful writer, almost poetry. And she wrote, in every outthrust headland, in every curving beach, in every grain of sand, there is the story of the earth. Women and girls, being the most impacted, are also the greatest validators. And that's why we have to have this last important chapter of the environment movement, which must overcome the climate crisis. And I think it's going to be a chapter that is written by women, for women, told by many of the women who are gathered here and so many others around the world, for the survival of humankind and for the sake of our planet. And that is the message that should go out of COP28 in Dubai. Thank you.
I'd like to invite out the earlier panelists for a photo. No photo? Yes, photo.
All right, we've just been listening to the former U.S. Secretary of State, that's John Kerry, as today we witnessed the first ever Gender and Climate Day taking place at COP28, live from Dubai. Of course, on the panel is another former Secretary of State, that's Hillary Clinton. And the conversation is all about making sure that women are not just carried along, but are front and center of the fight against climate change, as of course they are not only vulnerable to the devastating effects, but are also champions of local economies and the sustainability of the economies that are often hardest hit by the impact of climate change. So that's coming to you live from Dubai. As we can see, there's now a photo up from this panel, but this is the first ever panel focusing on gender and climate.